Let's do this. Hello, people. Another beautiful day. Hope your five senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. What? What's up, gamers? Look, open world games are the best. Okay? Open world games are the best. Listen to this. What's up, Eurogamer? Listen to this. And this article is gonna make me look good, and it's gonna make the Wii U look good. Watch this. Open world games are the best. With a linear game, you're limited in what you can do. But open world games does everything a linear game does and more. Okay? Alright, let's get into this. Says Zelda producer E.G. Aonuma thinks linear games are games of the past. Says here there's a bit of grass is greener mentality. But he's right. But this article is gonna make me look good though. Anyway, watch this. Says here Zelda Tears of the Kingdom producer E.G. Aonuma has responded to fans' hope of a traditional linear Zelda game, saying he believes games with strict path are games of the past. That's games of the past. That is true because you're limited in what you can do. He says here the debate has been argued ever since the release of Breath of the Wild, and Aonuma gave his thoughts on the topic in a new interview on IGN. But the reason why Breath of the Wild exists is because of Ocarina of Time. I will explain. Anyway, it says here, it's interesting when I hear people say I miss traditional linear Zelda games. That means they don't want things to change. It said Aonuma reveals, because I'm wondering, why do you want to go back to a type of game where you're more limited and are more restricted in the type of things or ways you can play? And this is where the Wii U comes in. So the question is now, what if the Switch is a linear console, what you build a Switch for? Just saying. Okay. Anyway, it says here, 10 things we wish we know before starting The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Watch on YouTube. I will leave that video in the description box. Games which have a strict order or events are kind of games of the past, Aonuma said. Willis modern games can accept a player owns a decision and give them the freedom to flexible proceed. This is the design philosophy of the Zelda team at Nintendo. He states, though he added, I do have to admit making games that way always carries with additional development costs. It says here, meaning that open world games are limited, are endless, because there's always stuff you got to add. But anyway, open world games are like the real world. But anyway, let me keep going. It says here, Aonuma said he can understand the call for a return to traditional Zelda games, meaning that people don't understand video games. He says, I do understand that desire that we have for nostalgia, he added, and so I can also understand it from the aspect. However, you might want to keep your expectation in check for the next Zelda game, which is unlikely to be a direct sequel to Tears of the Kingdom. As Aonuma also said, he believes we as people have a tendency to want the things that we don't currently have. He said, I think with the freedom players have in more recent games in Zelda series, there is still a set path. He concluded, it just happened to be the path that they choose. This is something which Dolan picked upon as he got past the tutorial area and delved into the open world of Tears of the Kingdom. All right. Article is done. Good article, Eurogamer. Now let me explain this. The Nintendo 64 had some games on there to let us know that we're going to hold open world games will be the standard for video games going forward. You had Turok, you had Wave Race, you had Extreme Extreme G, and of course F-Zero and all that, right? You had Mario 64 that was driving the point about the future of video games, and open world is where we're going. But Zelda Ocarina of Time really, really put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, to let people know that Zelda is an open world game, and Ocarina of Time also let people know that linear gaming, they're dead. They're being put on notice. Linear games are dead. So, with that being stated, now the Switch is a linear console, and you're limited and you're restricted in the things you can do. But the Wii U is not restricted. You're unlimited, and you have more to do. And then with an open world game now, you can with the Switch, you just have functionality of video games. But with the Wii U, you have functionality and utilization of video games. Okay? So for Iona now to say, where's he at? Where's the comment? He says, it is interesting when I hear people say, I miss traditional linear Zelda games. Stop right there. This is where the virtual console comes in. Because in the PlayStation 1 versus Nintendo 64, you had cartridge versus CD. And you know that CD holds more data than cartridges. Cartridges is expensive, right? And then with cartridges, there's a lot of data you got to remove to get games to work, right? But then you had the Wii U's cartridge versus CD problem with the 3DS and the Wii U. But then there was the virtual console. So Nintendo put it out there that it was sales why the Wii U failed. It wasn't sales, it was a 3DS. Okay? What is the virtual console? The virtual console, it's like your hard drive. It's like your bookstore. It's like your library. It's like your bunker, and it's like your archive for what? For your games of the past. All your games of the past that you played were supposed to be stored in the virtual console. The virtual console is made for natural disasters. So the virtual console is like your hard drive, bookstore, library, bunker, archive for your video games. And all your games of the past, if you have that nostalgia craving, those games are supposed to go in the virtual console. Right? So now, in other words now, the Switch now should have never been built, because the Switch is a linear console. With the Switch, it can't even run the games right, and you're limited in what you can do. And this is where the Wii U comes in. Because with the Wii U, you have what? You have options. You have the motion controller. You have the Wii U Pro controller. You have a hard drive that you can put up to 30 terabytes or more. You have a tablet where you can put a motherboard, CPU, GPU, APU, RAM, SATA, solid state drive. You have the docking station, and then you have the Wii U console, and you can put a motherboard, CPU, GPU, APU, RAM, SATA, solid state drive in the Wii U's console. So with the Wii U, you have the functionality, but you also have the utilization of video games. On the Switch, you don't have that. So let's say you're playing on a tablet and you're using a console. You have the option to bring the map of the game that you're playing up. And if you don't like that view, flip it over. So that's where functionality and utilization comes in. So with the Switch, you are limited in what you can do. And then with the Switch, you're using cartridges, and the games are not performing right. You can see it with Batman Arkham Knight. Look, I seen a video with Digital Foundry today, and they were covering Batman Arkham Knight, and somebody said in the comment that the Wii U version of not Batman Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham City. Somebody said in the comment section that the Wii U's version of Batman Arkham City is better than Batman Arkham City on the Switch. CDs are better than SD cards and cartridges when it comes to video games. So If you don't believe me, you can take a Nintendo 64 with Resident Evil 2, and then line it up side by side with the PlayStation 1 version of Resident Evil 2, and you can see it clear as day. So anyway, for Iuna now, for Iuna to say now, it is interesting when I hear people say, I miss traditional video games. I mean, traditional. He said, I miss traditional linear Zelda games. That's where the virtual console come in, because the virtual console is like your hard drive, bookstore, library, bunker and archive, and all your traditional games that you play. Without all your traditional games that you play of the past, they were supposed to be in a virtual console, so Nintendo now can focus on the open world games. That's what the virtual console is for. And then he says, Aonuma reveals, because I'm wondering, why do you want to go back to that type of game? What people don't understand is that those type of games, you are limited in a linear world video game. You are limited in what you can do compared to an open world game. Open world games are the best because an open world game can do everything that a linear game can do, and then more. Okay. Then he says, why do you want to go back to that type of games where you're more limited? So when he says when you're more limited, he's talking about the Switch. That's one. They are limited in what they can do. And number two, with the Switch, you are restricted. But now, with the Wii U now, you're not limited and you're not restricted. You get the point now. The Switch should have never been built. So in other words, so the real question now, so he says, you're more restricted in these type of things or ways you can play. So if that's the case, everybody that bought the Switch now should look at Aonuma and said, okay. I said, okay. Then if you're saying all this, what you build a Switch for? What did you build a Switch for? Because all this talking you were doing about, we were trying to be different, we're going to do gaming on the go, we're going in a different direction. And then when you build a Switch, you're limited and you're restricted. What you build a Switch for? And that's the question you ask people, because right now, based on this statement, the Wii U is better than the Switch, and the Wii U is current. Look, he's saying, why do you want to go back to a type of game where you're more limited and restricted? With the Wii U, you're not limited and restricted in how and where you want to play. Okay, you're not limited or restricted. But with the Switch, you are. Okay, and then with the Switch, you only have functionality, but you don't have the utilization part. But with the Wii U now, you have functionality and utilization of video games. Okay? Now, they're talking about Breath of the Wild, but the reason why Breath of the Wild exists is because of Ocarina of Time. Because in Ocarina of Time, when you're in the Ikari Forest and you were moving around and you were running to the Lost Woods, the moment you stepped out on Hyrule Field, Zelda became open world game. There was no going back. There was no going back to a linear Zelda game. It was over. They're dead. They're kaput. They're no good. Okay? The moment in Zelda Ocarina of Time, the reason why we will never have a linear Zelda game again is this. In Ocarina of Time, turn off this light. No, keep it on. In Ocarina of Time, you were in a tree sleeping, and you were moving around, and right. Then you came out the one of those Deku trees, and then you were moving around in the Hickory Forest. But then you try to go to the Lost Woods, right? And then to go to the Lost Woods now, and you try to go to the lawsuit, and then your uh your your uh your you couldn't go because one of the characters was preventing you from going. It wasn't time to go there yet. But then you went to the Deku tree, right? And then you get to go inside the Deku tree, and then you do all the complete the mission, right? But then when you leave the Hickory Forest now, and here comes the death sentence for linear games. As soon as you left the Hickory Forest and stepped onto Hyrule Field, it was the death of linear games. Games that are linear. It was over. It was done. Zelda became an open world game. Okay, it became an open world game, and it was done. Yeah, and the thing about Ocarina of Time too, you had to go get a horse. The Ocarina of Time was an open world game. For those who don't know, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was an open world game, and you needed a horse to travel, to cut down your distance. Yeah. So the writing was on the wall when it came to linear games. So for Yuna to be saying what he's saying now, you're asking yourself this question. If this is the case, then what you build a Switch for? I'm just saying, if this is the case, what did you build a Switch for? If you're saying, it is interesting when I hear people say, I miss traditional linear Zelda. That's where the Virtual Console comes in. All those Zelda games were supposed to be put in the Virtual Console. Then he says, Ayuna reveals, because I'm wondering, why do you want to go back to that type of game? Meaning that type of game, you're limited. You're restricted. You're limited. You don't have a lot of options. That's what it means. And he says, and the things you can do. Then he says, where you are more limited and more restricted. And this covers the Switch. That statement covers the Switch, because with the Switch, you are limited and you're restricted, right? So now, this is where the Wii U now comes into play, because you have functionality and utilization, and you have options to play. You don't have that on the Switch. You don't have it. So he says, okay, limited and more restricted in the type of things or ways you can play. The Wii U and the open world games go good together. So you're saying to yourself, if Ayuna is saying all this, then what you build a Switch for? What did you build a Switch for? What did you build? If you're saying all this, it is interesting when I hear people say, I miss traditional linear Zelda. That's where the Virtual Console comes in. Then he says, Aonuma reveals, because I am wondering, why do you want to go back to a type of game where you're more limited or more restricted in the type of things or ways you can play? If that is the case, then the Switch should have never been built. Like I've been telling people, the answer to the Nintendo fan base problems was right in front of their face. Controller, tablet, docking station, console, motion controller, hard drive. The answer to the Nintendo fan base problems was right in front of their face. They choose to go against it. So if you're saying all this, then the Switch should have never been built. Look, I tried to warn everybody about this, because when it came to the Wii U, I never used the internet to study the Wii U. I studied the Wii U without no internet, no books, no magazines. I studied it from top to bottom, and I compared it to all the consoles that we've ever had, and I saw what it brought to the table. And I was trying to warn people that the Wii U is the standard for video games, meaning functionality and utilization. I told you the Wii U is every angle, every direction, every base covered. I told you the Wii U had the Nintendo fan base needs met, And I also told you that the Wii U was designed to pull the Nintendo fan base out the hole that they find themselves in. Because look, he's saying, it is interesting when I hear people say I miss traditional linear Zelda. Okay, it's interesting. Okay, that's where the virtual console comes into play. Because you put all your traditional linear Zelda in the virtual console so people can play them. Then he says, Ainuma says, revealed, because I'm wondering, why do you want to go back to that type of game where you're more limited or more restricted in the type of things or ways you can play? With the Switch, you are limited and you are restricted. But with the Wii U console, you are not. Okay? With the Wii U console, you are not limited and you're not restricted. Okay? So all that talking that they were doing now, oh, we're trying to be different. Oh, we're going to do gaming on the go. Oh, we're going in a different direction. Right? And, you know, we're trying to be different. We're going to do gaming on the go. We're going a different direction. All that was fake, because if you're saying all this, then the Switch should have never been built. Like I've been telling people, that thing should have never come into existence. The Wii U is still current. Okay, the Wii U is still current. Okay, one of the reasons why I gave Tears of the Kingdom a 5 out of 10 is because it doesn't have the Wii U's functionality and utilization. Okay? Because me personally, I did not want to go back to a single screen and play video games. I've been down that road for years on the 8-bit Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64, GameCube, Wii. I've been down that road on the Genesis, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, even the 4, Xbox, original Xbox, 360, Xbox One. The Wii U was current. The Wii U had it right all along. Functionality and utilization. You have to utilize these games. Okay? You have to. So for Ayuna to come out and say now, it is interesting when I hear people say, I miss traditional linear Zelda. That's where the virtual console comes in. And then he says, Ainuma reveals, because I'm wondering, why do you want to go back to that type of game where you're more limited or more restricted? He's talking about this is where the Wii U comes in. So in other words, the Switch should have never been built. And like somebody said on Digital Foundry today, when they did the Batman Arkham City, someone said in a comment that the Wii U's version of Batman Arkham City is better than the Switch. CDs hold more data than SD cards. Okay? CD holds more data. So the Switch should have never been built. And for people that was laughing at me and saying I didn't know what I was talking about when it come to the Wii U, who's laughing now? Okay? Who's laughing now? Yeah. The Wii U is the truth to video games, man. It is the truth to video games. The Nintendo fans were never limited. Because they had a console, docking station, tablet, controller, motion controller, hard drive with a 25 gig CD. The only problem with the Wii U now was the 3DS. You need to get that out the way so you can focus on this. And then you had the virtual console that was like your bookstore, your library, your hard drive, your archive, and your bunker. And then they had a Miiverse. Just saying, the Wii U was the truth. So now to go away from that, and then to build a Switch, and then come back and then make a statement like this, it just shows you the Nintendo Switch should have never been built. Because the Nintendo Switch fan base right now, they're limited and they're restricted in the things, and the type of things or ways they can play. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video for y'all to enjoy. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still a Star Wars and Star Trek fan for Dark Side.